In this video, we're going to take an introductory look at Microsoft Excel and how it can be used to help us in this statistics course. We're going to focus our attention on what is called random sampling. So, in this video, we're going to introduce Excel. We're going to install what's called the Analysis Toolpak. The Analysis Toolpak is an add-in for Microsoft Excel that helps us do some statistics, and it's really easy to turn on, and once we turn it on, we'll never have to worry about it again. You don't have to turn it off, you only have to do it once. It's really nice. We're going to use the Analysis Toolpak then to create some random numbers to get used to it, and then we're going to review the different types of sampling that we can use those random numbers to help us with. So let's take a look at Microsoft Excel. Here I have a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. Now Microsoft Excel has these rows that are numbered going down and letters going across the top to help us identify a certain location. So this highlighted cell I have here is in column G, row 11. So we say this is cell G11. So if I have to talk about a location, we'll talk about it by its column and then row. This one highlighted is J4. Over to the side here, I've got some data that's been accumulated by my quality control department. My company makes widgets, and they have been numbered as they come off the line. Widget number 1, widget number 2, widget number 3. The second column here, column B, tells us about what line the widget came off of. I have two lines in my company that create these widgets. One of them is a little more efficient than the other, so you'll see a lot more line A's, but both of them are making widgets. So you can see widget 1 came off of line A, and widget 4 came off of line B. I also recorded which hour the widgets were created. So with 0 meaning midnight, these first few here were created between midnight and 1, and then there were a few more created between 1 and 2, and so I kind of have all this information about my data. So widget 9, line B, came off during the first hour. What we're going to do here is we are going to take a random sampling of my widgets to determine if they're meeting quality control standards. Quality control wants them to be a certain size, a certain weight, a certain color. It wants us to test to make sure we have a good product going out. However, it would be time and cost prohibitive to test every single widget to make sure they're good. So what we're going to do is we have 100 widgets in our population. That means there's 100 widgets total. All the way at the bottom is widget number 100 that were made in this 12-hour time period. 13-hour time period, actually. We are going to sample 15 of these widgets, and I'll just write this to the side. We're going to sample 15. Now notice that 15 kind of went off the cell. I want to make room for it, so I'm going to come up here between column M and N, and my arrow turns into a little line there. If I double click, that'll make it bigger. We're going to sample 15 widgets to determine if they're good or if they're bad. We'll later be talking about what's called the binomial distribution, which tells us the probability of finding a good or a bad one given some type of sample and some acceptable probability. But for now, we're just selecting which widgets are going to be included in the sample. To do that, we're going to have to use one of our 4 methods of sample selection. But first, we want to turn on what's called the Analysis Toolpak. The Analysis Toolpak is going to help us with some statistics. It may already be on in your Excel file if you've used it before. If you click the Data tab up at the top, over to the right, you may see some type of Analysis button. I don't have it on right now. I need to turn it on. And the way we turn it on is you go to the File tab and come down to Options. Options will pop up. There's lots of options. We are going to do the add-in, which is near the bottom. And it tells you a lot of the add-ins that are available. We're going to turn them on. So at the bottom, we're going to manage the Excel add-ins. Let's go. And here's 4 add-ins we can install for free. The first one you see is Analysis Toolpak. Go ahead and check that one. There's also an Analysis Toolpak VBA, and that uses field codes. We're not going to use those, so we're just going to do the first Analysis Toolpak. And click OK. When you do that, on the Data tab now, you'll see the Analysis button. Let's kind of show you one thing in this Analysis Toolpak. The Analysis Toolpak has all sorts of statistics in it. And we will be using several of these statistics and probability functions. The one I'm going to be interested in today is the random number generator, which is highlighted here, random number generation. So I'll say OK. And this gives us the ability to make a whole bunch of random numbers. First, the number of variables we're creating. Basically, this is how many columns of random numbers we want. So let's make one random variable right now. And let's say I just want 5 random numbers. There's a distribution option. There are lots of different distributions that we'll be talking about through this course. What I want to do right now is just use the uniform distribution. It's the most simple, and basically it says any random number has an equal probability of coming up. And so let's say I want to create random numbers between 0 and 20. Then we have to pick our output range. I like to put it on the sheet I'm working with. So I'm going to select output range, and then we'll click this little button on the side here, and it wants to know where we want to put the first random number. Let's say we put our first random number in G1. So I select G1 and hit enter. Takes us back to the random number generator and say OK. And there it's created for me 5 random numbers between 0 and 25. Now, a lot of the times we don't want the decimals. So if you select the cells and go to the Home tab, under Number, the last button here decreases the number of decimal points. And so if you click that a few times, the decimal points will start to disappear until you have whole numbers. So my random numbers are 10, 10, 1, 3, 18. I don't need those, though, for this sampling technique, so I'm going to delete them, and we're going to actually go through now and select the random sample we want. There are lots of different methods for random sampling. The simple way is to say, hey, we're going to sample 15. Let's pick 15 random numbers, and those will be the widget numbers that we select. So we need 15 random numbers out of the 100 widgets that have come off the line. So let's go to Data, Data Analysis, Random Number Generator. We want one variable. We need 15 random numbers. We want the uniform distribution, any number to be equally likely, between 1 and 100. Let's select the output this time to come right underneath my sample 15. Hit Enter, and OK. And there's my 15 random numbers. Let's go ahead and decrease the number of decimal points again. Down underneath on the Home tab, underneath Number, And there they are. I might even be interested, in convenience sake, let's sort these numbers in order. If we highlight the cells, we can put them in number order so it'll be easier to find them in my list. Under the Data tab again, there is a Sort button. And this sorts the numbers pretty quickly. We're going to sort sample 15 based on the values, smallest to largest. And there they are. Now what you might notice is number 6 was selected twice. So since 6 was selected twice, let's just pick one right next to it. 7's already on there, so let's go with 5, just to kind of fix that problem. So 5, 6, 7, 30, 38, 50, 55, 67, 71, 78, 79, 84, 87, 92, and 98. So I'm going to make a column here that says sample. And number 5 is going to be sampled. Number 6 is going to be sampled. Number 7 is going to be sampled. Number 30 is going to be sampled. Scroll up so I can see. 38 and 50 are going to be sampled. Scroll up so I can see those numbers. 55, 67, 71, 55. Oops, I forgot already. 67, 71, 67, 71, 78 and 79, 84 and 87, 92 and 98. And so there I've marked with yeses the 15 randomly selected widgets that I'm going to sample using a simple random sampling method. And this is simple random sampling. We just randomly picked 15. Now my manager says, I don't know if I really like that because we had a few that were clumped together. Those were all made at similar times. 2 of them came off the same shift. Gee, I don't like the simple random sample method. Why don't you go with the more systematic method? I want you to use the systematic sampling method. Okay. Well, let's highlight cell D. I'm going to right-click cell D, and I'm going to delete it because my supervisor wasn't happy with that. We're going to sample a different 15. Highlight the ones I don't want and hit delete. We are going to sample using a systematic method. We want to take 15 of the 100. Now I can quickly calculate on a calculator. We need to sample about every 6th widget. So I'll just write that down so I have it. Every 6th widget. And that's not quite right. Technically, it's like every 6 1/3 widget, but we'll be okay with that for our purposes. Every 6th widget will give us about 15 widgets to sample. Now, we want to make sure every widget has an equal probability of being picked. So we want to make sure 1 has a chance of being picked. We want to make sure 2 has a chance of being picked. We don't want to start with number 6. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to create one random number between 1 and 6. And this is going to represent our first widget. So we go to Data Analysis, Random Number. We want one random number this time between 1 and 6. And we want to put it right there under sample 15. Okay, there it is. And let's reduce the number of decimal points here. So it rounds up to 4. So we're going to start with 4. Now we want to do every 6th widget. So we're going to hit the equal sign here underneath 4. Select the cell right above it and say plus 6. And that's going to say this cell is equal to the cell above plus 6. So 10 would be the next one. And then I can grab in the bottom corner the little dot and drag it down till I have 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And we got a little round off error. Every 6 doesn't quite get us there. So why don't we keep going? Let's go till we get to 100. So 94 and 100. So 106, that's off my list, so I'm going to delete that. So we're going to sample about 15. This is going to give us a few more than 15, but it'll do for our purposes. So cell 4, yes. Cell 10, yes. 16, 22, 28, 34 and 40, 46, 52, 58, 64, 70, 76, 82, 88, 94, and then I think the last one was just 100, wasn't it? Yep. And those will be the ones that I end up testing. That is the systematic method of sampling. Every 6th widget. The first one is selected randomly. Now, my supervisor is a little concerned about this because he wants to make sure that both lines are being represented. Line A creates almost twice as many widgets, and line B creates a lot fewer widgets as a result because it's not as efficient. Maybe it's older. So he wants to redo our sampling method again. Let's just use our delete key. We're still going to sample 15. Delete, delete. This time he wants to sample 10 from A and sample 5 from B. Double click to expand those cells. So first it's going to help to group the A's together and then group the B's together. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight A, B, and C. And I'm going to sort them based on which line they came off of instead of the number. So data, sort. We want to sort by which line they came off of. And we're going to sort it based on the values alphabetically. Okay. And so now what it's done is it's grouped all the A widgets together. There's 64 A widgets. And then it's grouped all the B widgets together, and that's the rest of them. So it might be convenient to kind of renumber these. So I'm going to create a new number so that we can number the A's and number the B's. So if I type in, this is kind of neat, if you type in 1, enter, 2, enter, Excel's going to notice that pattern if you select those two cells and grab that bottom right corner and drag it down, and it's going to start to count up. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of the A's. There's 63 A's. And then we're going to start numbering the B's. 1, 2, and it's going to notice that pattern as we scroll down. 37 B's. Okay. We need to create random numbers then to sample 10 from A and 10 from B. This is called the stratified random sampling method, where we split everything into groups. So let's go to data. Data analysis. Random number generator. Okay. This time we want one variable, 10 random numbers between 1 and 63. We want our output to go underneath the sample A. Enter, enter. And there are the 10 widgets we're going to sample. Let's reduce the number of decimals so it's easier to see the numbers. And then we'll sort them real fast to make them in order. Notice the top cell did not get highlighted here. That's because the sort feature thinks our data has headers, and it doesn't. I did not highlight the header, so I'm going to unselect that to make sure it includes the 16. And say OK. Again, we got 6 showing up twice, so let's just take the one before it. We'll go 5, 6, 12, 14, 16, 31. That showed up twice. 30, 31, 48, 52, and 59. So looking at the new numbers, we need to grab those. 5, 6, 12, 14, 16, 30, 31, 48, 52, and 59. 48, 52, and 59. So those are the ones we're going to sample from group A. And then we need 5 from group B. So we need another set of random numbers under data analysis. This time we need 5 random numbers between 1 and 37, because there were 37 in group B. And the output we want to show up here in column B. Let's decrease the number of decimals. And let's sort them. Sort column L based on the values, smallest to largest. We're going to do 5, 20, 21. Let's come down to the B's. We want 5, 20, 21, 32, and 34. And now we have selected the widgets that we will sample for our quality control test. But again, my supervisor's not happy. He's hard to please. He doesn't like this yet either. He says it's getting better. He says, but instead of grouping them in this way, he would rather do the test all at once. Instead of having to be on the clock for all these hours, grabbing, the first widgets come off at 1 o'clock, then there's some widgets that come off at 2 o'clock to test, some widgets to test at 5 o'clock, some widgets to test at 9 o'clock, some widgets to test at 11 and 12 o'clock. This is getting ridiculous, he thinks. He wants to make this easier, so he wants us to sample specific shifts. He wants us to sample specific hours, so we can sample them all at the same time. So, back to the drawing board. Let's delete all of this that we just did. So, this time, since he wants us to group them by hour in clusters, we're going to do a cluster sampling. So, let's highlight all of our data, and we're going to sort. This time, notice we do have headers. So, we'll select My Data Has Headers. Notice now it doesn't select the headers. And we're going to sort by the hour they come off, smallest to largest. Okay? And there we go. So our hours go from 0 up to 12. And let's decide to do 3 shifts, or 3 hours. We're going to randomly sample 3 hours worth of widgets, and we'll see how many we get out of those 3 hours. So we need a random number. We're going to want 3 random numbers on the uniform distribution. We want a random number between 0 and 12. Output range, we want it to show up right here under 3 hours. And hit enter. And those are our 3 shifts. Let's reduce the number of decimals. And we want hour 2, 6, and 5. Those clusters are going to be surveyed. So the clusters were picked randomly, but we're going to interview everybody in the clusters. So at 2, we're going to interview. We're going to survey all of them. 6 and 5, we're going to survey all of them. This is cluster sampling. Oops, I missed the first 6. And then hour 5. And we could have put these in number order, but since there were so few of them, we were able to find those pretty quickly. So those are the randomly selected widgets to sample for quality control to make sure they're up to the standards of the company. So that's been kind of our introduction to Excel. We took a look at some basic Excel features. We took a look at how to install the Data Analysis Toolpak. Now that it's installed on your computer, you only have to do it this once. We don't have to do it every time. It'll be there now forever, and that's just fine. There's no reason to turn it off. And then we looked at how we could use Excel to employ these 4 different sampling methods. The first method we looked at was the random simple method, where we assigned everyone a number and just simply selected which random numbers to use. Then we took a look at a systematic method, where we picked every 6th widget. We still use some randomness to it because the first one was picked randomly, and then after that we added 6 to that number to get the next widget we were going to sample. Then we took a look at a stratified random sampling method. Stratified random sampling is where we split the data into 2 groups, Group A and Group B, and we looked at 10 from Group A, selected randomly, and 5 from Group B, selected randomly. That's the stratified, 2 groups. Finally, we looked at cluster sampling, which is a little more convenient. We split the data into clusters and then randomly pick clusters and survey all of them inside that cluster. We split them by hour and clustered hour 2, hour 6, and hour 5 as our random clusters to sample. On the project that you're going to do by the end of the week, there are tabs down at the bottom so that you can do each of the random samplings on different tabs. That way you can save your work and turn in each of the tabs. So at the bottom, make sure you go to the correct tab that is described in the homework sheet. Also on that sheet are several specific directions how to do the Excel assignment. Make sure you read those carefully because those points are assigned to following the different steps correctly. Good luck on your video, and let me know if you have any questions.